Hello and welcome to this special edition of Cronkite News. I'm Drew Marine. Thanks for joining us. Cronkite News covers public safety in our state from all angles. Here are some of our top stories from our government and justice team.
With so much controversy surrounding former Maricopa County Sheriff Joe Arpaio's pardon, many are wondering how the current sheriff plans to move forward. As Cronkite News reporter Bridget Dowd tells us, Sheriff Paul Penzone plans to take a very different approach.
After former Maricopa County Sheriff Joe Arpaio's criminal contempt of court case was dismissed, current Sheriff Paul Penzone says he's disappointed.
He was, given the freedom without any accountability, whereas we are and will continue to be accountable because that's the right thing to do. So as the sheriff, when I look at that and I say we should all be treated equally under the law, there's a circumstance where many could argue that wasn't the case.
Penzone says part of the reason he wanted to run for sheriff was because he was unhappy with what he saw Arpaio doing. He wants to reassure people that racial profiling and discrimination by officers will not be tolerated.
We will not be engaged in immigration enforcement. Not only is it prohibited by the court orders, but it's not our primary responsibility. It's not our job. We have to enforce the laws in the state to keep everyone safe, regardless of who you are, where you come from. No different than our uniform, the color of it, or who we are, where we came from should not be a factor. It should be about enforcing the laws, being constitutional, being law-abiding before you are law enforcing, and to be an extension of the community at large.
Penzone's office is still embroiled in the 2013 racial profiling court case in which deputies were found to be targeting Latinos in traffic stops.
I think that the actions were in response to practices by my predecessor that were unethical and unlawful. We're doing everything within our powers to collaborate with the ACLU and the DOJ and the courts. We are law-abiding and we are dedicated to owning this responsibility and overcoming it.
Penzone says the employees MCSO hires should be just as diverse as the citizens they serve. We're
just looking on a broader scale to be more strategic in our effort to reach out to communities that maybe in the past have been neglected. We haven't paid enough attention that there are talented people who have an interest in becoming detention officers or deputies. There's a career for everyone, whether it is, you're a CPA, whether you want to work as a dispatch, or whether you want to work in some form of administration. There's plenty of opportunity, but this organization has to reflect the community we serve, so we have to do a better job of recruiting across the board to everyone and to find talent in every community.
Penzone also says he believes there's a major divide right now between law enforcement officers and the community they serve, and the first step?
We have to be engaged, we have to be patient and listen to learn, and we also have to find ways to educate our community on the challenges we face, not only crimes that could affect them, but as law enforcement professionals, the challenges that we face so that we can be better at our job, because it has to be a shared relationship.
In Phoenix, Bridget Dowd, Cronkite News.
For more on our interview with Sheriff Penzone, visit cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
The Scottsdale Police Department is in the process of upgrading body cameras for its officers. Cronkite News reporter Nicole Gutierrez shows us the improvements.
The Scottsdale Police Department is currently in the process of replacing their Axon body cameras to an updated version. Axon, formerly known as Taser International, hopes that their cameras continue to reinforce transparency and accountability for the police department and the public.
We have recently switched under our contract to what you see on my shoulder here, which is the new Axon Flex 2.
Flex 2 cameras record a 120-degree view in HD level.
This one's unique because if you have a Flex 2, it's not a body camera that has a lens here that you wear on your chest. It's actually one that powers up a digital video recorder that I can mount to my neck. I can take this off, moving my glasses, my hat, my helmet, motorcycle helmet, anything like that.
Flexibility in the placement of the camera allows a better view of any incident.
Now, when it comes especially to use of force incidents, we get a much better view with the camera up here on the shoulder. You're getting a better view because you're looking down and because there's a wider angle lens with this particular camera than with the old camera.
And that view can provide more information about the incident, but former police chief and now AAC professor Jerry Oliver believes the cameras can and should go further by providing live feeds that would allow real-time feedback.
I really think the great opportunity for the use of these cameras have not really been explored. Let's talk about mental health, for instance. Police officers aren't really equipped to deal with many of the mental health issues that they come in contact with. The officers can focus in on the behaviors or the circumstance, and professionals can whisper in his ear, so to speak, or give advice as to how to de-escalate that situation or how to deal with that situation.
But Scottsdale police are satisfied with the current cameras being able to record interactions for evidence.
In this day and age, transparency is incredibly important in terms of building relationships with the public. So this department is dedicated to making sure that we're as transparent as possible.
Scottsdale police will have 140 cameras from Axon, and by the end of the calendar year, they will purchase an additional 60 Flex 2 cameras to have the full patrol division in deployment. In Scottsdale, Nicole Gutierrez, Cronkite News.
It's been a little over 2 weeks since the shooting in Las Vegas, and the debate on gun control continues to build. Cronkite News reporter Kevin Gessner spoke with people on both sides of the argument.
Arizona ranks 14th in the country in gun-related deaths per year and ranks 40% higher than the national average. It also costs Arizona $1.9 billion every single year to deal with gun violence, from treating injuries to treating gun-related cases and incarcerating criminals.
And what gun violence really is in the United States is that 321 Americans are shot every single day in this country. Approximately 90 die, and the rest are wounded and survive their injuries.
It's these type of statistics that push Jerry Hills from Arizonans for Gun Safety to support universal background checks. But gun law attorney Trent Woods says we have to keep in mind that law-abiding firearm owners have rights too.
There are 30,000 deaths. Most of those, universal background checks, the vast majority wouldn't help. So what are we doing? All we're doing is burdening law-abiding citizens and increasing costs and increasing hassle.
In 2015, almost 1,000 people in Arizona died from firearm-related deaths. This includes about 60 suicides and less than 400 homicides.
And the simple reality is people do kill people. Guns are a tool, and guns can be used to kill people, but they don't do it by themselves.
That's exactly why we want to put laws in place that regulate people.
And Americans may be leaning more toward those regulations. A recent Gallup poll shows 60% of Americans want stricter gun control, the highest level of agreement since 1990.
We want to insist that people are required to go through training. We want to insist that people who don't store their firearms responsibly and little kids get a hold of themselves are held responsible for their irresponsible gun ownership.
The problem lies, and that's where we need to I guess, regulate or control and do a better job.
Since the Las Vegas attack, there have been 16 bills proposed in Congress on both sides of the aisle for some type of gun control. These bills have been introduced to Congress but have not been sent to committee. Kevin Gessner, Cronkite News.
Helping people in the middle of a mental health crisis can be a struggle for police officers. That's why the Scottsdale Police Department is working with therapists and the public to improve its response. Cronkite News reporter Emily Richardson takes us inside some special training.
Last night, Scottsdale PD held a mental health crisis planning meeting. Natalie Summit, a member of the Scottsdale PD crisis team, says that they hold these to make sure people know what will happen when they call 911.
Dan and I have an interest in making sure that the public is fully informed about what will happen in a typical police response, so that they can make an informed decision about which direction they want to go.
They explained to the attendees that it is important to discuss when your family will call the police, because once they do, the police will respond in the way that they see best.
Look up is, when do you call? When is it safe to do so? That's why this is so important to have that family discussion and have that discussion with your client.
The moment you make that call to 911 and the operator answers, 911, what's your emergency? You have just invited the police department and all their policies and procedures into your home.
It is also important for the caller to know how to properly call for help.
When 911 calls, this time you gotta be very specific what's going on. The best information possible, the most you can give us.
The main focus, however, was to inform the audience of the importance to ask for a crisis intervention trained officer like Dan Antrim when calling for help in a situation involving someone with mental illnesses.
So for me, it's a real passion because my heart's drawn to those that are just different than me. The mental illness doesn't make a difference in what they are as a person. The stigmatization right now of people with mental health and illness is very severe, it's very real. So I like to try to reverse that as much as possible, showing that treat everybody equally and equitably.
So there is recovery for folks who have mental health concerns.
In Scottsdale, Emily Richardson, Cronkite News.
One state lawmaker is working to create legislation to move, not destroy, Arizona's Confederate monuments. Kevin Gessner has a story on what monuments are being debated.
The Wesley Bolin Memorial Plaza in downtown Phoenix is home to hundreds of different memorials, from the Armenian Holocaust to the Vietnam War. But this memorial in particular is sparking a state controversy.
It commemorates Arizona Confederate troops, and it's not the only one in the state that honors the Confederacy. In fact, Arizona has 6 Confederate monuments, 2 in the Phoenix area. State Representative Reginald Boulding is an advocate for removing these monuments. He says when you're looking at the context of the Confederacy, it's important to remember what they stood for and what these monuments are really honoring.
The members of the Confederacy, they stood by this belief that individuals, African Americans, should not be seen as humans. They believed that so much that they were able to put it into their own constitution, and many were willing to die.
But Bill Long of the Sons of Confederate Veterans believes when you remove one monument, it's fair game to remove anything else that honors the Americans that served their country.
We were called to serve, which I was, and I did. So I would be highly upset if they wanted to say, okay, now we're going to take the Vietnam monuments down and not commemorate the people that died over there and served in that position.
I totally agree that the monuments are preserving history. The question becomes, where do we place these monuments? I've always advocated that these monuments should go to a museum. They should go to private collectors.
We would be more than happy to take the monuments and put them on private ground.
Boulding plans to request a meeting with the Legislative Governmental Mall Commission and allow the public to have input. But he says having Governor Doug Ducey's backing would streamline the process.
The governor also has the ability, according to another board, to actually remove the Jefferson Davis Memorial Monument that's on U.S. Highway 60 that's honoring, that was put there to honor the Confederacy. So right now, the governor really has been absent in large part.
But the state's latest memorial to the Confederacy was built just 7 years ago in 2010 in the Historical Soldiers Memorial Cemetery in Sierra Vista. It's right next to one honoring Union soldiers, but built a year earlier. In Phoenix, Kevin Gessner, Cronkite News.
There will be a meeting next Monday to determine if the US 60 will continue to be honored as the Jefferson Davis Highway.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
Looking for a job in law enforcement? Departments across the state have hundreds of openings to fill, but the departments want to make sure the people hired reflect the communities they will serve. Drew Marine explains what they're doing to encourage groups that may not be as represented as others.
According to the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, they have more than 300 vacancies, and only 5% of the Arizona Department of Public Safety is made up of women. These statistics are what drive Arizona law enforcement to reach out to younger generations in hopes of getting them interested in this field earlier to fill jobs and prevent gaps in diversity. By diversifying their departments, Arizona law enforcement is building trust in communities.
And when we can catch them at the high school age or maybe a little bit before, that's really where we begin to see our numbers increase and grow.
In doing so, they are filling jobs by reaching out to young students to increase their interest in this field.
You're calling us on your worst day of your life. You have someone who looks like you, who thinks like you, who processes information like you do, and that only serves to make us stronger.
And training them for future responsibilities.
What I did was incorporated a lot of things from the police academy. So you see the kids actually doing physical fitness and jumping fences, dragging dummies, all the things that we require of our officers when they go through the academy.
Not only are they hiring students from in-state, but they are doing whatever they can to bring people of all backgrounds to serve our communities.
We have made it a priority to travel about the country to bring in diverse candidates back to Arizona to provide policing. Right now, Arizona DPS is about 21% diverse. Of the 1,300 plus sworn positions, that's where we sit.
This Friday, the Phoenix Police Department will be hosting a career fair at the Phoenix Convention Center to let the community interact with police officers in hopes of reaching a diverse community to bring into the law force. In the Broadcast Center, Drew Marine, Cronkite News.
A bipartisan deal announced today would provide short-term funding for subsidies for health insurance companies that help provide coverage to low-income customers. Reporter Sydney Eisenberg was at the Capitol this afternoon with a group who believes more needs to be done to protect health care.
Senators Lamar Alexander of Tennessee and Patty Murphy from Washington State say they're working to win enough support to push the deal through Congress. But unless that happens, many in Arizona worry about how President Trump's changes would impact their health care.
Tony Bannister is a breast and colon cancer survivor. Though she beat her disease, she's still struggling with her health care.
I was 10 years out from having cancer and was still calling and trying to find out if I could get health insurance.
Bannister's family is also caught up in the confusion.
They are unsure as to what to do. I don't know what to tell them to do. So we're just kind of in limbo, waiting to see what happens.
President Trump's plan to cut subsidies could cause many to lose their coverage. According to the Department of Health and Human Services, there are nearly 6 million people nationwide who benefit from those subsidies. If subsidies were cut, the Congressional Budget Office predicts that premiums for lower-income customers would increase 20% by 2018 and 25% by 2020.
But above all, the biggest loser is your everyday American citizen, working-class person who now is going to end up paying because of Trump's ego.
The proposed bipartisan bill would continue federal payments to insurers for 2 more years. Bannister hopes that one day she will never have to worry about losing her coverage.
That the fear that ran through me was overwhelming, and the anger that I felt was overwhelming. The worst part was that I felt hopeless and helpless to change anything.
President Trump is on board with the agreement, calling it a, quote, short-term solution. In the broadcast center, Sydney Eisenberg, Cronkite News.
Victims of human trafficking, foster kids that have aged out of the system, and the homeless. These are groups that can feel marginalized.
But as Cronkite News reporter Kevin Gessner shows us, one Valley Center dedicated to helping these groups just got a big boost.
The Phoenix Suns Charities donated $100,000 to create a learning center at the Phoenix Dream Center to help survivors of human trafficking find a path to college. Since the birth of the human trafficking program, the Phoenix Dream Center has catered to the lives of about 500 women. Brian Steele, executive director and CEO, says once the medical care and counseling were addressed, there was a missing piece of the puzzle to get them to the next step of their lives.
Our desire is that they would be strong, independent young women out there in the community just doing amazing things for their life, and that they really truly could move on. And so therein entered really our heart for education.
Once the education program was created, Arizona State University and Grand Canyon University offered scholarships. But after the first year, the Dream Center noticed the women were having a hard time adapting. Steele says many of the women in the program hadn't even completed 10th grade, so they needed something to help them women go from a GED program to college, and that's where the Phoenix Suns stepped in.
This Phoenix Suns Learning Center that we've opened is geared at really helping the young women transition from our program from here into to full-on college.
Sarah Crahan-Buell is the executive director of the Phoenix Suns Charities and says the Phoenix Suns as a whole is not afraid to dive into sensitive topics like human trafficking and making a change.
Our owner is very adamant about doing what's right and making a strong impact on kids in our community. They are our most treasured assets, you know, and if we don't help them, who is going to?
The women attend high school online, and in the evenings, interns from GCU come to help them prepare for college. Kevin Gessner, Cronkite News.
More than 50% of Arizona's homeless live here in Maricopa County. As Cronkite News reporter Steven Sidner explains, the city of Phoenix is launching a new plan to respond to the problem.
My lungs gave out, I ran out of money, which led, of course, one thing to another. Just kind of a snowball effect.
Last summer, Lori Wenzel and her sister lived in a patch tent near I-17 in Grand.
It was kind of hell. You know, you live outdoors during the summer, it happens.
And it happens to more than 3,200 people in Arizona, according to the latest count of unsheltered people completed in January. Moises Gallegos, the director of human services for the city of Phoenix, says that the new plan, known as Phoenix Cares, will connect those in need with organizations that can help.
Number one,
strategy is to bring people to services. That's our goal. So we do not provide housing directly ourselves, but there are many programs in the community. We are connected with all of those programs.
What the program does do is create a single place for residents to place their concerns so the city can then respond.
As the calls come in, human services staff will look at that information and where the encampment is being reported. They will direct the resources of a homeless engagement team that would go out and engage individuals to help bring them into services.
Gallegos says that the reason for this new program is because the unsheltered population is growing. According to the Maricopa Association of Governments, street homelessness is up 60% in the county since 2015. Wenzel is glad to be off the streets and offers this advice to others who are struggling.
Put your faith in God and put one foot in front of the other and live life.
In Phoenix, Stephen Sidner, Cronkite News.
The city will have community meetings next month where they will unveil the plan and the number to call and when to call. 7 agencies across the valley are working together to install software at intersections that may cut down your traffic times on Bell Road. Blakely McHugh is in Scottsdale and has more on what this software is and how it works.
The software is called Adaptive Signal Control Technology. It's been installed here on Scottsdale and Bell Road. Now, this is only one of 50 other intersections that'll be installed with this technology.
Bell Road. One of the busiest roads in the valley is getting a makeover. It's an internal makeover, so even though the road may not look different, you'll be able to feel a difference.
The new technology is called Adaptive Signal Control Technology, and what it does is it takes the demands on the roadways and puts some algorithms behind it to come up with new timings on the fly. So when there's changing volumes or traffic patterns on the roadway, we're able to go in and adjust those signal timings very quickly.
50,000 vehicles pass along Bell Road every day. That's a similar volume of cars as the freeway. And commuters say that makes driving on Bell a hassle.
Because of the traffic, and it's just a stop and go, constant. Takes me forever to get anywhere.
The new technology allows light signals to change automatically based off of changing traffic conditions in real time, increasing your chances of seeing green.
We're hoping that it reduces the accidents on Bell Road as well by lessening the chance of a rear-end accident and alleviating some of that stop-and-go condition that's on the roadways.
Now, according to Maricopa County Department of Transportation, this is one of the largest projects of its kind in the nation. At its completion, it'll span 16 miles and pass through 5 cities. In Scottsdale, Blakely McHugh, Cronkite News.
Trying to navigate traffic in the valley can be treacherous. It can be even more dangerous when you're on 2 wheels instead of 4. Cronkite News reporter Bailey Moore shows us how some new street improvements could help separate traffic and make sharing the road with cyclists a little safer.
I was riding on the sidewalk, and as I was crossing over an opening where a parking lot enters into the road, a car pulled out to look to see if they could go left and didn't look at the sidewalk and ended up hitting me on my bike and totaling my bike.
Roy Banwell is one of nearly 1,500 bicyclists involved in crashes with cars reported in Arizona in 2016. As the Phoenix metropolitan area continues to grow, so does the need for traffic accommodations, especially when it comes to sharing the road.
So there's a large group of people, they're known as interested but concerned. It's about 60% of the adult population. They have this kind of nostalgia for bicycling, or they want to learn to ride a bike.
Among the many transformations, the city of Phoenix has incorporated its first protected bike path, outlined by flexible bollards to separate vehicle and bicycle traffic. Visible signs, buffer zones, bike share programs, and isolated paths have also been implemented, not just to control the traffic, but to bring the community together, just like the good old days.
The friendships you build with other cyclists, fellow cyclists, they're fantastic. I mean, they're really powerful, really strong. You see people once a week, and you're not seeing them at work, you're not seeing them at school, you're seeing them in a social opportunity, and the social capital and establishing social bonds is really, really important to building a strong community.
In Phoenix, Bailey Moore, Cronkite News.
Well, if you're looking to change up your commute, bicycle group route resources are available online. And if you're going for a ride, you might want to pack some water. Women are helping women prepare for one physically demanding career, firefighting. Reporter Sydney Eisenberg takes us to the training center to show us what they go through.
The Valley Women's Firefighters Society is trying to encourage women to become firefighters by giving them the skills needed before they're hired by a department.
You can go to the gym and you can work out and you can be physically fit, but as soon as you put on a pair of turnouts and you start working with various tools that firefighters work with, it's a whole nother ball game.
At the Phoenix Fire Training Academy, the group tackles each task that firefighters handle on a daily basis, from simulating breaking into an attic to put out a fire, to pulling fire hoses up 2 stories.
Don't let go of that left hand. Not only do we work on physical skills, we also work on talking about what the fire department's like, what the station is like, what we're going to be expecting of you in the academy, on probation, throughout your career, and what's going to make you successful.
According to the National Fire Protection Association, between 2011 and 2015, only 4.6% of firefighters were women. While these classes are open to men, Graziano says they're especially helpful for the women who attend.
This is just sort of a tool that helps, more women come on the job and let them know that, hey, this is out here. We want you guys. We want great, strong, willing, positive women to be on this job and be role models for, younger girls and that generation coming up.
In Phoenix, Sydney Eisenberg, Cronkite News.
The Valley Women's Firefighter Society offers these classes 3 times a month.
Thanks for joining us for this special edition of Cronkite News. For more multimedia coverage, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org and click on the Government and Justice tabs.